Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to STL TV Live. He's been writing books since the 1980s, and his latest book, Hyde Island, has been getting rave reviews. I'd like to welcome Richard Burgin to the studio. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So congratulations. This is your 16th book.
Yes.
And we have it here on set, Hyde Island. Tell me about it.
Well, it's a collection of 9 different short stories and a novella. Sometimes people want to know what is a novella. It's like a long story. It's longer than an average story and shorter than a novel.
And so tell me about some of the different short stories. I saw some of the reviews, read some material on it, but give us some insight into what people, who would be interested in reading the book, what type of stories are going to be in there.
There are a variety of stories and a lot of different characters from different socioeconomic parts of society. I suppose people would characterize the overall stories as being a little on the dark and edgy side, but not all of them. And there's humor in the stories and hopefully humanity as well.
When you're writing novellas or short stories versus a novel, is there a different approach that you take in terms of plot and structure? I mean, as a writer, what's the mindset? Do you have to kind of compress it, or how different is it?
Well, I began as a novelist, and I have published a couple of novels. The writer Isaac Bashevis Singer, with whom I had the good fortune to do a book of interviews, said a novel is a story. It's just a longer story stretched out. So. Because I began as a novelist, my stories may be kind of novelistic, that they're longer than the average story. They're thematically, there's a lot of thematic developments. My characters undergo changes often within the context of the story, and my challenge has been to try to compress my material to fit the short story form rather than finding ways to expand it. I find it's harder to think more concisely, and that's been a challenge my whole
You're telling me it's
life.
harder for me to speak concisely. I completely understand.
Yeah.
I read an article recently, and it was talking about like novellas making a comeback and saying, are these going to be, because people don't have as much time these days, is there going to be more of a trend? I mean, do you see a literary trend and interest in short stories?
Well, as far as novella goes, that's kind of been a very difficult form in terms of making it in the marketplace of literature, perhaps because it's neither a novel nor a short story. But some of my favorite works of fiction have been novellas, like The Death of Ivan Ilyich by the Russian great writer Tolstoy, Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. So it's a form that can offer at its best some of the delights and pleasures of the leisurely development of a novel, but be compact enough that you could conceivably read it in a sitting or two.
So you've been writing since you were 7 years old, and this is your 16th book. Do you find that your writing style has changed over the years? And I don't mean obviously from when you were a child, but in your professional career, has it changed, do you think?
I think so. I think hopefully we grow into and discover our own voice more as we get older. I think that may be one of the advantages of a literary life, as compared, say, to one in athletics, where you have a limited window of time and your body kind of dictates when it's going to end. But, and that's often in the late 30s, early 40s for professional athletes. But that's sort of around the time when I and many other people I know start to really find their own voice and come into their own. It's not something that can really be rushed,
So yeah, no, that's really interesting. We have the information there for you on the screen. If you want to pick up Richard's book, it's available via Amazon.com. You can also get it at Left Bank Books, or you can visit his website. But I have a lot more questions for him, so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with Richard Burgin right after this. Keep it here on STL TV Live. Welcome back to STL TV Live. I'm Sarah Thompson. I'm here with Richard Burgin to talk more about his newest book, A Hyde Island. So this is an interesting one because this isn't a novel, it's a novella and 9 stories. Any favorite? Do you have a favorite, or what are the favorites that people have said to you, some of your fans or other readers have said?
So far, the story that people seem to like the most, and that oddly, or perhaps paradoxically, when you hear the title, because the story is called From the Diary of an Invalid, is the most sort of sweetest and most optimistic story, because it's the story really centers around a father and his love for his son, and how that relationship grows and sustains him while he's going through these physical problems. And it also deals with the idea that the main character has. He starts to feel that he starts to examine the whole issue of infinity and the limitations of human consciousness, and gets a deepening awareness of the sort of eternal questions and mysteries of life, as it were, and comes to the conclusion that the way our minds are designed, the way our brains are designed, we see things in terms of cause and effect always. But that breaks down when it comes to applying it to the universe, because we are made to think in terms of cause and effect, but we can't really say, how could there ever have been nothing? How could there always have been something in terms of the world? And so he starts to get preoccupied with these metaphysical speculations, and perhaps because he feels his own life slipping away.
So let me ask you, as an author, when people say to you, I really love this story, do you find, or is there even a distinction between loving the character or versus the actual story itself, like what that character does? Or are those two intertwined that you can't separate them?
Bingo, I would go for I would go for the latter. There's a famous painting by Matisse called The Dancers. I don't know if you know that one. And the 3 dancers are all holding hands or locking hands. And that's kind of the way I think of character, plot, and setting. You know, you can't really separate them. Yeah. If you don't have the vital, true-to-life feeling of a person, then the theme is just abstract and academic. On the other hand, if you sort of just have characters but without any kind of thematic development or vision of life, then it's sort of just surface entertainment.
Yeah.
So you can't really separate the two.
I want to be sure before we end things that you've won numerous awards. You've obviously worked on several books, working on another one right now. Tell me about Boulevard and what you do, because you wear many, many hats, and probably not too many to cover here, but at least tell me about Boulevard and what you do with that.
Your viewing audience see it. It's a literary magazine that I started some 29 years ago. We publish poetry, fiction, essays. We published world-renowned writers like Isaac Bashevis Singer, the Nobel laureate. Joyce Carol Oates is a frequent writer that we publish. But we also publish new, emerging, cutting-edge young writers, or writers deserving of more recognition. So we try to stay fresh and vital that way. And we've been lucky enough to be in bookstores around the country, national distribution, or if people are interested, of course, they can go to the Boulevard website.
Okay, and I want to
find out more about it.
You mentioned Joyce Carol Oates, but I also believe Gloria Vanderbilt. Is it that you have a experience or a working relationship?
We collaborated on a book together, and also I wrote music for a doll that she designed.
Did you really?
The CD was accompanying the doll. Yeah, this is about 10 or 11 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, well, he not only writes novels and short stories, but he also writes music. And you can learn more about Richard by visiting his website. It's right there on the screen, richardburgin.net. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on, 16th book. And hopefully for the 17th, we'll have you back here, okay?
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And stick around, there's more to come on STL TV Live right after this break.